Hey guys, welcome back to another great episode of That 90s Guy. Yes, it's me, Justin, and I'm back again. And this time we're back with more Rugrats Season 2 with Episode 5, which consists of Part 1, which is Showdown at Teeter Totter Garage and Mirrorland. So without further ado, let's get right into Showdown at Teeter Totter Garage. Now, this one is a really unique episode, and I know I say that a lot, but it really breaks form a little bit because you have Grandpa taking Tommy to this kind of old Western style park with it's like a little play town that has it's a Tommy and Chucky centered episode. First of all, none of the other babies are present for this, which really makes a really interesting dynamic for what's about to happen. You have Tommy and Chucky who go to this little Western like town, and you have like this perfect Western. I mean, like really, you have Melinda, which is all these babies that they're meeting are totally different. It's more of I think more so on the lines of them exploring the world outside of the Pickles house finally, and it's not just going to each kid's house and more of the and not just that extended family, if you will, but it's this entire big world. It's sort of like the Big House, kind of, where you have, but this time it's not just Tommy, it's Chucky and Tommy. They're dressed up in their little Western hats, and they even have a little saloon where all the kids go and get these little juice boxes, and Melinda gives them a juice box, and she's sort of the damsel in distress for this, because then you have all of a sudden, and it's really strange how they frame it, you have no shadow time, which is high noon, which is described where the sun gets so high, gets so low in the sky that there's no shadows, and Tommy gets told about the junk food kid, which is sort of like Billy the Kid sort of reference, but this time it's a girl, and she only eats junk food apparently, but she picks on everyone. So you get to see her picking on some of the other kids at the playground. And of course, Tommy doesn't take well to that. In fact, he's quite angry, so he goes up and confronts her. And of course, all of a sudden, you have this conflict start on. Of course, she pushes Tommy down, and then of course they have 10 paces. And of course, all of a sudden, Melinda gets caught in the middle, and of course, the junk food kid blows this huge bubble, and then she pops, and it gets all over Melinda, and her hair gets covered in gum, and Tommy gets upset, but then it's time for him to go, and of course, he sort of runs away for the first time from this little conflict, and for Tommy being so brave most of the time, you get him sort of actually, feeling fear of this challenge. And then, the junk food kid challenges him, to a showdown. And then of course, he has this little crib scene where Grandpa is talking about, the right thing, and then doing the right thing and standing up for yourself. You had to be a real tough hombre to, back then. And of course, he's comparing that to his own life with this bully that he's dealing with. And you get this cute little scene where he's still got his little cowboy hat on, and he has this little wind-up guitar, and he's just playing it in his crib, and thinking about the big showdown coming. And then that's when it really gets interesting. I mean, I really think it's one of the stronger episodes for it, because they actually go no holds bar. They do a complete Clint Eastwood style thing with what Tommy and the junk food kid, doing this this 10 paces, and of course they're going 10 paces in the middle of the corral there, and in the middle of the little town, and all the other kids are afraid, and Tommy and Chucky first start noticing it after they re-meet Melinda, who has all of her hair cut off almost, and as Chucky says, "Wow, you're almost as bald as Tommy," which is kind of hurtful. I mean, I think Chucky sort of breaks character a couple of times in this, because he's kind of encouraging Tommy to, go through with it, and he's sort of protecting Melinda, being brave as a construct of it, as a consequence of it. And then you get the big scene where they're doing 10 paces, and they're just going back and forth, and then Melinda's like really impressed with Tommy, and then then Chucky says, "Oh, that's nothing." One time Tommy got his tongue stuck to an ice cube, and then Melinda says, "Wow," and then of course, then you cut back to they're cutting back and forth between the dialogue between Chucky and Melinda to Tommy and the junk food kid. Of course, she's getting the junk food kid's getting ready to blow this big giant bubble, and then Tommy says, "One more move and I'll pop it to pieces." And then, of course, she smacks the little popsicle stick out of his hand. And of course, Tommy's got no weapon now, and he thinks he's doomed. Then all of a sudden, Chucky notices there's a candy cane on the ground, so he picks it up and throws it to Tommy. And he said, "Here, catch," and then he catches it, and then he pops the bubble, and it goes back on the junk food kid, and she's all covered in gum now. And then all the other kids are cheering as her mom, the junk food kid's mom, picks her up and takes her away. He said, "Oh, I could kick myself for letting you have that gum, Prudence." And then you get this sudden realization, Tommy Prudence is her name? And then all the kids are cheering, and Tommy's this big, giant hero. And then Melinda says, "Well, what are you going to do now?" So, well, she asked Tommy, and Tommy gets that sort of, I know it's the title of many memes on the internet, but it's kind of funny. And he says, "Well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to snuggle with my blankie and go nap. And then she's like, "Oh, well, when will I see you again?" And he says, "Well, I don't know, maybe tomorrow." And then it cuts back to Tommy and Chucky coming back tomorrow, and then you only get a shot of the feet, and you see the junk food kid, and you're thinking, "Oh, what is it, revenge?" And you look, and then it looks up, and she's kind of smiling. She looks like she's been crying a lot the night before, and she's got all of her hair cut off. And instead of junk food, she has these little carrot sticks. And then she's like, "Oh, they're carrot sticks. Anyone want one?" And she's like, so super nice. And then Tommy and Chucky invite her, and Melinda invite her to play. And then she said, "Okay." And then they're just playing nice, and all the other kids aren't afraid anymore. And then they go back to playing, and then you get this nice little fade out where you get to see the whole park. And all in all, I mean, that's the end of the episode, but really, I mean, they put a lot of work into it. I mean, wow, I mean, they really recaptured the whole sense of the Old West just in this one little kid show. I mean, for less than 12 minutes, you're getting an entire Western. I mean, it's beautifully done. I mean, of course, it's all a playground set. But you notice that none of the buildings have ceilings or anything, but they're there, and you get the idea. And the kids are the townsfolk, and I mean, they just copied it, and not just copied it, but they made their own thing so beautifully. I mean, it's one of the top-notch episodes. I mean, I think it's one of my top 25, which I'll do. I mean, I'm going to really make that list when I'm done with the series. And, definitely, I mean, it's one of the stronger ones, and I really enjoyed it. And without further ado, I'm going to end it there, and I'll see you in part 2, which will be Mirrorland. So until then, all the best.